Now on Bloomberg Intelligence, Munis in Focus.
All right, today's Focus on Munis is brought to you by BAM Mutual. Put America's strength to work in your portfolio with BAM insured municipal bonds. Protect your investments with an added layer of security and guaranteed income. Invest with strength. Build a stronger tomorrow with BAM Mutual. This is the time of the week. It's Friday. We talk municipal bonds. Today we do that with Elizabeth Rembert, municipal finance reporter for Bloomberg News, joining us here in studio. Elizabeth, I noted that you are a University of Nebraska graduate, right?
Yes.
Okay. Tough night last night for you guys, right?
Devastating. And all Nebraskan fans know we would have rather lost to any other team.
Than Iowa. So talk to us about that rivalry, because we don't really get that here in the East.
Mm-hmm.
Big rivalry, Nebraska-Iowa.
It really is. We're both in the Big Ten. We are neighbors.
Yep.
We play each other in football on every Friday after Thanksgiving. It's pretty intense. There's a rivalry over who has better corn, and the answer is Nebraska, of course.
Nebraska corn. That's awesome, fighting over the quality of corn. All right, in the world of municipal finance here, I see some U.S. municipal borrowers are opting for shorter dated debt to cater to investors that prefer those maturities. What's going on there?
Yeah. So that's been something that we're watching in the market. A big theme last year was that there was just a lot of supply in the long end of the curve, and issuers were having to pay to incentivize buyers to buy out on that long end of the curve. And now it seems like the supply has been moving inward to take advantage of a bespoke type of Muni account called separately managed accounts, which tends to focus on shorter maturities. So it seems like instead of wanting to lock in those rates for 30 years, have more time to pay back their debt, issuers are wanting to minimize the cost of capital and coming down to cater toward that investor preference.
Doesn't that create more risk for the borrowers?
Yeah, it does. But it seems like for now they're willing to take that on instead of paying for more to borrow money.
Because usually for this municipal borrowings, there's to build a highway or a bridge or something, long dated assets. So you want to get long maturities to kind of match there. But they're just saying, hey, they're doing the cost-benefit analysis. Maybe it's a little bit better to go on the shorter end.
Exactly. Yeah, I've talked with some folks who have been in conversations with underwriters who are helping issuers sell this debt and with issuers themselves. And yeah, the calculus is just shifting more into let's minimize the cost of borrowing and come in shorter instead of trying to lock in that stability, minimize that risk. Instead, they're minimizing the cost of capital.
How short are we talking about? I mean, you've gone from 30 years to how many years?
Well, we ran some numbers on our using our Bloomberg data, and we saw a big jump in the issuance in bonds underneath 15 years. So inside of 15 years of maturity, we've seen a big jump compared to last year's numbers looking at sales this year.
All right, I see what you're doing here, you guys on the Muni team. You're getting into the March Madness here. I see. The best college basketball teams in the nation all have one thing in common. They're housed at universities with powerful financial
big endowments.
Resources. Yeah, so talk to us about that.
Yes, like Scarlett just said, big endowments. So we ran some numbers, and 24 of the 28 schools that made the Sweet 16, both on the women's and the men's side, have more than $1 billion in their endowments. And there's some huge endowments at the University of Michigan and the University of Notre Dame, and we know them as very powerful recruiting powerhouses. And let's compare that to what endowments typically look like across the higher education space. A survey that polled 650 schools on their endowments found that the median fund was just over $250 million, and more than a quarter of those participants had endowments of less than $100 million. So thinking about 24 of the 28 schools having endowments that are over $1 billion, these are very powerful schools with huge, deep pockets.
I didn't know that Michigan's endowment was that big. $18.9 billion for Michigan.
Yeah, it's pretty
Holy
mammoth.
cow.
They have a very loyal alumni base. Of course, speaking of loyal alumni, talk about Duke, because Paul is going to go there anyway, so I'll just beat him to the punch.
Yes. Duke is a powerhouse, and they certainly have a lot of resources as well at their disposal. They've got a prime credit rating. They've had great enrollment, and they're getting a lot of payments from their students for tuition and housing, and that helps pay student athletes for their salaries. That helps get coaches. It just helps have a really successful program.
Yeah, tuition and housing for 2024, Paul?
$90,700. I mean, unbelievable. Now they've got a $12 billion endowment, but here's the big but for higher education. the threat to funding from the U.S. government, the federal government, particularly as it relates to healthcare. So for the universities that have big healthcare components to them, like the Duke Medical Center is massive, and that's it gets a lot of money from the federal government, from the Department of Health, and that's the flow that's been at risk, and that's been
Duke has not been targeted, really. I don't recall it kind of being in the headlines, right?
No, they haven't. But again, the NIH funding has been threatened, has been delayed, and that's had a monstrous impact at Duke. And so they've cut costs and done all that kind of stuff because they're kind of preparing for the worst. So anyway, so we'll keep an eye on that. But good stuff. Elizabeth Rembert, she covers all the Muni stuff for Bloomberg News, and she's a proud graduate of the University of Nebraska. Tough night last night for the Huskers, but they had a great. I'm 62 years old. I've been following college hoops since I can remember. By far the best year Nebraska's ever had. So
absolutely,
maybe they're on something. Elizabeth, thanks so much.
Thank you.
That.
Put America's strength to work in your portfolio with BAM Insured Municipal Bonds. Protect your investments with an added layer of security and guaranteed income. Invest with strength. Build a stronger tomorrow with BAM Mutual.